Is type 1 diabetes a limitation? Of course, there's extra work that we have to do, but to answer the main question, I think there are really two sub-questions. The first is whether type 1 diabetes makes you weak or unhealthy or unable to do certain things. And the second is whether type 1 diabetes is something that will cause other people to perceive you in that way. So let's start with the first question. Here's a weak and unhealthy guy. Doug Burns won Mr. Natural Universe as well as Mr. USA. Here's another one.
Now I have 10 Olympic medals, and the majority of them were won with diabetes.
I always cringe a little when I see stories in the media about people who did amazing things despite having type 1 diabetes, because of course, in a way, that can help to push the idea that type 1 diabetes is a limitation. However, I do want to show you that it's not a physical limitation, so let me run through my list based on a quick bit of research. Bill Gullickson pitched for 14 seasons in Major League Baseball and had a quick chat with Sam Fuld when Sam Fuld was 12. Fuld went on to become an amazing outfielder for the Tampa Bay Rays. In the NBA, Chris Dudley was a center for 16 years from 1987 to 2003. Gary Forbes played for the Denver Nuggets in 2010, 2011, and the Toronto Raptors in 2011-2012. In the NHL, Corey Conacher and B.J. Crombie play for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Toby Peterson plays for the Dallas Stars. Charlie Kimball is an IndyCar driver with 1 podium and 7 top 10 finishes. Sébastien Sasseville summited Mount Everest, completed the Sahara Race, and has completed 5 Ironman triathlons. In rugby union, Rod Kafer is an Australian Test player. Steve Rainiff played for Brisbane. Brett Stewart plays for Manly. Chris Southwell is an extreme freeride snowboarder. Sean Busby, Olympic snowboarder. Gary Mabbutt is a football or soccer player for the Tottenham Hotspur First Division team. James Stout is a professional cyclist and PhD student. Aidan Bile ran across Canada. Why not? Honestly, I think type 1 might have been more of a limitation a number of years ago, before we had blood glucose testing, highly accurate insulin, new developments like continuous blood glucose monitoring. But even back then, there were people proving me wrong. Ron Santo played Major League Baseball from 1960 to 1974. He was a National League All-Star 10 times, won the Gold Glove 4 times.
I'd already signed a professional contract. And then I went to my doctor, found out I was a diabetic. And the first thing I asked him was, can I play baseball? He said, I have no idea. So I made my mind up then that I was going to play.
Bobby Clark, one of the best hockey players of all time, started in the NHL in 1969. He played for 14 years, won the Hart Trophy 3 times as the National Hockey League MVP, and led the Flyers to 2 Stanley Cups. In 1983, Bill Carlson was the first person with type 1 to finish an Ironman triathlon. He's done many more since then, many other endurance events, and he has a marathon finishing time of 2 hours 38 minutes. More recently, 29 people so far have finished Ironman triathlons with my good friends at Insulin Dependence, an American charity focused on type 1 in sport. So here's my take on the whole thing. It's a little crazy, but I think that the way that we think about something, especially something as complex as type 1, changes the way we act when it comes to taking care of ourselves. So I know for myself, if I get down and I think that it is a big limitation, a big drain on my energy, a big problem in my life, then it can become that. I'll stop testing as much, I won't be as diligent, I won't take as good care of myself. But if I take a little inspiration from some of these athletes and I say type 1 is something that pushes me forward, I have to do extra work to do with my health that makes me stronger than the guy on the starting line next to me, then when seen in this light, I think it can become a whole different ballgame. Now, all that said, we need to move to the second part of the question, which is, will people stop you from doing things because you have type 1? 16 years ago when I was diagnosed, you couldn't be a firefighter, you couldn't be a police officer, you couldn't be a commercial pilot. It seems like now there's less blanket discrimination and more evaluation on a case-by-case basis if you have something that you want to be and you have type 1. Now, maybe you're secretly upset by all this. Maybe you don't like being told that the sky's the limit. Maybe you want something to push against. Maybe you want to be like some of these athletes who were the first in their sport or were the first to set records at these amazing feats that they've accomplished. If that's the case, I do have one idea for you. There have been 600 people or so who've made it into outer space thus far, and not one of them has had type 1. So by my calculations, 1 in 300 people having type 1 where I live, we are due for 2 people in outer space. I think that the sky will be the limit for me, but maybe it doesn't have to be for you. Go be an astronaut.